what's going on, boys? It's Snooker 404 here. Just wanted to kind of go over some things with this Soul Frame 13 prelude that just recently released. I don't know how you guys kind of feel about it, but to me, it's not honestly that confusing, but at the same time, it's honestly not great. I kind of want to go over some things with you guys, my thought process with it, maybe possibly what DE is going with it, some possible fixes and things that can maybe make this system work, or maybe something overall that just maybe they need to kind of revert back to how the system was in P12. So pretty much how this one goes, the big overall changes with this one was the overall virtue system. Well, we basically no longer have the point by point stat where we would put like 1, 2, 3 in spirit, 1, 2, 3 in courage, 1, 2, 3 in grace, kind of just building as we progress and actually go within the game. Now they actually added a system in known as the virtue prism, where basically those attribute points are just automatically given to us in these prisms that you overall can get from the factions, something that you can get if you are a WoW member, basically if you bought the overall founders pack for Tetran, Oshelda, and so on and so forth. And also just again from just going to the factions, talking to them, getting your rank up. As you guys see, I have pretty much all of them in the system. My honest process and thoughts on these are they honestly aren't great. They kind of take away from the build diversity that we overall normally had when the game first came out. And again, noticing pre-alpha and they're just testing some things and kind of trying them out. But I kind of feel like this is a more of play it their way type system and not a play as the player wants system. And overall, what I mean by that, I feel like I had a lot more freedom just kind of making builds and things, and kind of if I wanted to use magic with heavy armor, if I wanted to use, great swords with kind of like more of a great sword build. And now it's kind of more tailored to you have to wear specific armors or you have to use specific weapons in order to make builds. I don't necessarily mind it that way, but at the same time, it's one of those things I'm honestly just not sure in the direction they're going. When I first was watching Steve stream, I think this was honestly maybe a couple months ago, he kind of did like a live stream. It kind of gave us a hint at the system that the virtue system was being reworked. I thought it was overall just going to be a trifecta build. And what I mean by that, show you guys my terrible chart here, was that we would have had something more in lines of a system that was still the overall triangle where it was grace, spirit, and courage. And what I overall honestly thought was that we would have a small circle, and kind of in the sense of how we're actually going to build our envoys was that if we wanted to go more in tune with grace or anything here, that we would overall just kind of move the circle towards that. And of course what it would do would kind of like increase courage, where courage would go from 30 to maybe like 40, but as you're going a certain overall direction, of course that would deduct overall from the other virtues there. So just to give an example, if we were to go here and let's say that courage actually went to 40, and that would basically take 5 away from spirit, 5 away from grace, but kind of more or less the direction you're going and kind of how it goes. Let's say, going back to that, let's say that this was going to 40. What it would do was take some away from grace. I know we're kind of moving away from it, but kind of in a pinpoint system of kind of like where you're going. If you go all courage, that would of course put these down at like 0, where you would basically be full, and overall courage would, and again this is just an example, courage would technically be 90, and then these of course would be 0. But if you kind of moved it more up here, your spirit would go up more, where your courage could have been, for an example, your courage could have been 60, your spirit would have been 10, but because you're again far away from grace, that would have been 0. I was under the impression the system would have been something more like that, where we still have our overall kind of like how we want to build it, and not just say like, hey, you just have these main points, these honestly to me just kind of like random numbers that we overall pick and input in the system themselves, because to me these just look like random generated numbers. Honestly, I'm not sure again what the thought process was behind this, what the idea and things were behind this, but to me, again, just to me, this doesn't seem like a key thing. I know it's overall an early build of kind of the indication where they say like, hey, keep your open mind. This is going to be a system that's improved on, and maybe we do have to see more. But I'm honestly just trying to see like where exactly do we go that's going to give us more of like, hey, you're building this kind of the way that you go, the way that we overall want you guys to go. Going back to it, I'm not honestly the biggest fan of armor having attribute requirements, basically the virtue requirements, because that's another thing too. Like, I feel to me from kind of having these builds, I again just testing them out, I have like several hours in Soul Frame. You guys probably see me in the chat, maybe not, ask some questions and things. But I pretty much just had these. I did a spirit build where I'm just like going in the spirit to kind of see how that feels. Of course, grace honestly is my favorite, but we'll touch on that more later or possibly in another video. And of course, the overall, to me, courage still is kind of leading the pack, because I feel like if you're not honestly running some type of courage in there, or kind of like a high courage, Koga mode is is a lot scarier now, which I don't have a problem with, because again, it's kind of just like Koga mode is supposed to be the steel path version of Soul Frame in my eyes, but it just doesn't honestly feel right. And going out into the world and kind of just fighting enemies, again, just kind of starting a little bit with Spirit feels like the weakest. I do appreciate them stating like, hey, you know, it's gonna have a lot of cooldowns, which is great. Even in Koga mode, I kind of feel the difference with it, where it's more or less like, hey, these abilities are coming back quick. But again, with Spirit, the magic weapons being so low in damage to me in comparison to like, again, a bow build or a great sword or long swords and things, and kind of with the courage, it kind of feels, man, again, I know we're in the early processes of this, where this is just an early system that's, again, just kind of testing, but we do got to overall give feedback to DE in hopes to say, hey, this works, this doesn't work, and again, hopes and things that they would actually fix those. Overall, to me, the update is still pretty good. I do like the whole organ. I honestly thought that when we actually did the organ, from the place order that actually came up, I thought it was actually going to be a organ boss at the top. I didn't know it was just kind of like a thing here that was just like, hey, do these and then like destroy it, and then that's it. Fortunately enough, I'm not sure if it was a bug or not, but I did get the new dual swords that actually came. I was fortunate enough to also travel in the open world, and as you see, I'm actually using the new spirit weapon now, which isn't bad or anything. And I was already actually with Kick the Kings. Again, I have so many hours in the game that I was already pretty much at max frame and had a bunch of rep where I could actually buy those weapons. Haven't tested those out yet, but to me, again, magic is kind of on the lower side. Again, know it's just been a couple weeks. I'm sorry, not a couple weeks, but a couple days. I know that the patch just came out Friday on the 13th. Ironically, Prelude 13 comes out on Friday the 13th. But again, hopefully DE can kind of keep cooking with things. I don't know. You guys let me know how you guys feel down in the comment and say like, is the virtue system or yay or a nay? If you feel like, you know, they need to maybe revert back to the old system till this fully gets fleshed out. Also another thing, and I'll probably make another video on this later, the joineries. I'm okay with them. Again, I thought the joineries would have been something more like Former in Warframe, where it's like you get a weapon of 30, you put the joinery on it. You could add a possible attribute, whether if it was like if you want to split them, if you had those different type like Sephrine, where if you wanted to put grace on a courage weapon and kind of can build it that way. But again, early process. But you guys let me know how you feel down in the comments, and again, we'll just keep testing it and come out later. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.